Welcome to the Geek Easy, fellow geeks. Let's open a beverage of your choice. Because today is Friday. So, that means it's another edition of Frightful Fridays. And I know I'm late. I just was too tired to record it last night, and I had business to do today, so I'm a little late. But the movie we are reviewing today is Last Straw. I think it's from 2022. It's on Prime, I think. It's rated 16 plus. There's smoking. Gotta give a high, bad rating because people smoking it. A little bit of violence and language and stuff. Okay. So you have the main character, Nancy. She's 20 years old. She works at the Big Booty Bistro, a little restaurant run by her widowed father. And she finds out that she's pregnant by one of three guys, which she doesn't know who it was. So she has her life together. Her car overheats, breaks down on the way to work, and has to walk there. And it turns out that I think it's two of the people that were possible parents, possible father, work at the restaurant. And one of them is this little geeky kid. The other one is a kind of obnoxious cook who works there with his developmentally disabled brother who cleans stuff up. And she finds out that she has to work the overnight shift because somebody called out, and so she's going to be working with the cook. Set up of the movie, but then during her shift, the early part of the shift, in this, in the afternoon, she's going to have a long shift, these four kids show up on moped. They have a dead animal that they killed on the side of the road, which kind of pisses her off because she's kind of an unpleasant person to begin with. But she yells at them and all this stuff, and they come into the restaurant and there's a huge scene where she kicks them out. And they get these. I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember the old masks from back in the 70s and 80s, the one that they're plastic, they have little eye holes, and say, it's like a stormtrooper, and it's a stormtrooper one. You put it on, and there's that little rubber, little band that you put around it. They're all wearing one of those. One of them was Wonder Woman, some bearded dude, and all that. And then, so she, kicks them out eventually, threatens to call the police on them, because, they're being obnoxious and they killed an animal. And they were causing problems in the restaurant. And then she's yelling at one of the dudes, one of the possible parents, both of them actually. And then for some reason, she fires the cook. And so she's going to have to be stuck at the restaurant alone all night. Because her father is saying, hey, as long as the lights are on, somebody's got to be there. You're the manager. You've got to do it. And that's when the problem starts. It gets a little bit dark, and four people in the masks show up, and she starts causing issues, like standing outside, and banging on the windows, doing all sorts of stuff, and just being menacing and threatening, coming in. They'd left some animal, like a dead animal on the thing. So she calls the sheriff. And so this whole thing goes on, and so she's having to fend off all these kind of attackers who are doing stuff. And from when I read the description, it just said a lady who gets stuck in the restaurant all night, has to fend off invaders, and it's like, okay, that's kind of cool. And the first part is actually kind of cool up until you know it, it despite her being rather unpleasant, despite like the cook and a couple other people being a little unpleasant. So you just got these unpleasant characters there. It gets, and the sheriff is kind of a douche when he shows up. Despite all that, it is kind of suspenseful. And then there is a bit of a twist, which I'm not really going to show, but then you get to a point where then you find out the twist, and then it jumps back a ways. Not, obviously not all the way back, but, about, say, halfway back to to a certain point, and then brings you up to that point, the point where you find out where the twist is, and then finishes up. That point right there, where it stops and then goes back, but then once you catch back up, that's when things start to kind of fall apart, for the most part, all the way. Like I said, the female lead, kind of unpleasant. It's not because she was female, it's just that she was an unpleasant person. And the guys are kind of, the cooks are kind of cooking, the other people, dicks. So it's just, you don't really have anyone to really root for, because it's like, who cares, right? But there is some sort of, there's the movie logic, because you can't have certain things happening in a movie if everyone acted like you could be in real life, because the thing would be over soon. Certain things wouldn't happen. So you learn to accept this as a certain movie logic, but then once it gets up to that certain point, and then you get to the last, say, half, 3/4 of the final act, it completely falls apart. Because even with the internal logic, that just goes straight to hell. Straight to hell. I mean, I want to do this without causing any spoilers, okay? But someone gets stabbed, okay? There are bodies everywhere. There is a cop car sitting out in the front. Certain person is injured. What do? Go get in the car, start to drive off to do other things other than get help, right? The radio where you can just, hey, get some help down here. And then there's other things that go on, and then a little later, like I said, I don't want to ruin the ending by pointing out certain things that were just exasperatingly stupid. It was fairly decent until the last part of the movie, and you're just like, what? Was it worth it? Can't fit fixed up. Then finish this stuff up. Then take care of this other problem. Don't try and do that while you're still bleeding out. Just really stupid, and, using one thing at one point and then a little later not using it, which would help you get to a certain thing. And I'm just like, why? I mean, how are we not thinking about this stuff and adjusting things to make it better? To make it so you're just like astoundingly, making it so it's not astoundingly bad. So, I have kind of really good hopes with this, and was willing to stay with it up until the last little part, but then it just fell apart at the end, and I was just like, okay, I'm done. I could not give it any type of a good review. I'm going to give it a 1.5 just because it's bad. So if you're a big fan of just movies that are just horrible and not, so bad it's good, watch it, but I'd say don't waste your time. Because it's not worth wasting your time with, in my own little opinion. So, last drop, 1.5. Let me know if you saw it, what you thought of it, in the comments below. Like, subscribe, most of all, try and enjoy your horror movies.